So what exactly is in the digital deluxe version of Returnal, and is it worth it to pay that extra $10 to get those items? First, let's get the non-game items out of the way. Of course, you get the game itself, but then you also get a digital soundtrack. The soundtrack here is very atmospheric. If you like that, you may want to buy the digital deluxe just for that soundtrack. You also get some PS5 avatars for your account. I think there's no surprises here. Everybody knows what these are. More importantly, you get a slew of in-game items. I need to preface this really quick with how items work in Returnal. Returnal is a roguelike game, which means that you die a lot and start over from the beginning a lot, and everything you get throughout the game is found through randomly placed treasure boxes and item locations. So instead of giving you these items outright, these items are added to the pool of randomly generated things that you can get out of treasure boxes and item locations. The important thing to note here is that the majority of these items were designed to be acquired later in the game, so by having them early, you will have an early game advantage. First up, let's talk about the Hollowseeker. So in the first biome of the game, you have pretty much 3 weapons that you can acquire. You have a pistol, you have a repeater or assault rifle, and you have a shotgun. Each of these items has different situations where it is the superior weapon. The repeater or assault rifle is a fairly decent long-range to mid-range weapon early in the game. The shotgun is clearly the best close-range weapon, and the pistol ends up being somewhere in between. The Hollowseeker is designed as a long-range weapon and is somewhat of a Gatling gun or a mini gun that does lots of bullets but then does very little damage per bullet, and it's designed for situations where you have a lot of distance between you and the enemy that you're firing upon. It's also worth noting here that the Hollowseeker has a little bit of a homing missile effect on each one of its bullets, so if you're far away and having a hard time aiming at something, the bullets will curve a little bit as they find their target. This is a solid addition to your arsenal, and one that'll help you in the first biome, even though you'll naturally find it in the second one if you haven't bought the digital deluxe version. Next up, we have the Electropylon weapon. This weapon's a little more unconventional than the others. Here you are shooting pylons out of the gun, which do damage the enemy, but they also affix themselves to the ground, and as you shoot more pylons, they mesh together in an electric field that can also damage the enemy. This weapon's going to be a little bit situational. In tight spaces, those electric fields are going to be very advantageous. In long distance situations, or in some bosses like the first boss, this might not be the most effective weapon to use. It still does quite a bit of damage and acts kind of like a magnum revolver almost, doing very hard hits but very slow hits at the same time, and it's worth noting as well that the projectiles that are fired from the gun travel at a fairly slow speed. Next up, we have the Pulsating Mass Artifact. So artifacts function as a direct benefit to the player's character in the game. There is no downside to this specific item, there's only upside. And the Pulsating Mass Artifact, when attaching or detaching parasites, it increases your integrity. That makes no sense to somebody who's not honestly playing the game already, but integrity is your health. So as you attach or detach parasites, you gain health. But what are parasites? Parasites in the game can be attached to the player's character, and they give both a boon to the character but also have a downside as well. It's a pro and con system. As you play through the game, you find a number of different systems that'll allow you to remove parasites that you've chosen to attach to you, and what this artifact would do is have you get a little bit of health for every parasite that you extract from yourself. This item may be useful, but you have to keep in mind the fact that you're randomly going to find this item, so you won't have it on every single run, you won't even have a lot of parasites or even be removing parasites on every run. So this one's going to have some limited situations when it would be particularly useful. The last 2 items are interesting because I can't find any documentation for either of these, and I haven't run into them in the game at all. So what exactly they do is still a little bit of a mystery, but I can illuminate at least somewhat what they may do. More importantly, when I do get more specifics on what exactly these 2 items are, I will put that information in the description of this video, but for now, let me speculate a little bit because we have a good idea of what they do. The adrenaline booster is almost certainly going to impact the adrenaline system in the game. So what adrenaline does is, as you're killing enemies, you build up a combo meter that builds up to level 5 and impacts your combat ability in the game. This can give you different effects, like making it easier to do your special reloads, to, in some situations, even making it so you do more damage. There are multiple items in the game that allow you to augment how your adrenaline fuels up. There are even items that immediately fill up your adrenaline to the maximum amount. What Adrenaline Booster here is referring to is one of these items is going to be available to you in the beginning of the game. Regardless of what the specific effect is on your adrenaline with this item, it's going to be a lot like the Pulsating Mass artifact, where it's going to have some limited use cases where it may save a run for you, but overall it's not going to be useful in almost every run like the 2 weapons that you'll unlock will be. Finally, we've come to the Reflex Stimulant. This one is marked as a consumable, meaning it's something that you would consume immediately in the game and then it would be gone from your inventory at that point. The interesting thing though is that other stimulants in the game are found as artifacts that you'll be putting into your suit, and they're more permanent items. My guess for this item is that it's a consumable that you'll use, and then for about 30 seconds you may get more speed or you may get more fire rate out of it. Regardless, again, this is just an item that's going into the pool of items that you can get, so you won't see it even on every run. For anybody that has information on those last 2 items, if you can clarify or correct me, please do, and then I can add that information into the video description so that it can help players that are trying to make the decision of if they want to buy the standard or the digital deluxe versions. The overall take here though is that the majority of the in-game benefit that you get from the digital deluxe version is going to come in the 2 guns that you find. Yes, the artifacts and consumable items that you get as well will also help you in some situations when you find those items in the game, but for the most part the guns are what's really going to help you, and you'll probably be finding those guns on most runs. So is the digital deluxe version worth it? Well, that's going to be up to you, but I hope that I've been able to give you enough information to help you make that decision. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, and until next time, this has been Pixel.